So for this video, we are going to talk about the different accounting concepts and principles. These are the basic concepts or the basic ideas or the basic principles in accounting with regards to business transactions, business activities. Okay, so if you are a senior high school student planning to pursue a course in accounting, whether accountancy, accounting information system, management accounting, BS accounting technology, or even other business courses, because other business courses also have basic accounting subjects, no? Like basic accounting, partnership and corporation. Or if you are planning to pursue or to put up a business, then I believe you should also understand the different accounting concepts and principles so that you will be guided with the recording of the income and expenses of your business. Okay? So let's start our video and discussion, and let's both learn the different accounting concepts and principles. The first accounting concept or principle is the business entity principle. So what is business entity principle? A business enterprise is separate and distinct from its owner or investor. So when we say business entity principle, it means the business itself is considered different from its owner or from its investor. Kaya nga meron tayong separate entity or a separate person. We consider the business as a separate entity or a separate person that has its own income and expenses. So personal expenses of the owner and or the investor is not separate from the expenses and income of the business. So there is a separation between the owner and the business. So that is what the business entity principle is all about. So as an example, if the owner has a barber shop, the cash of the barber shop should be reported separately from personal cash. So, iba yung pera ni owner ng barber shop, iba rin yung pera ni business. Okay? Second, the owner had a business meeting with a prospective client. The expenses that come with that meeting should be part of the company's expenses. If the owner paid for gas for his personal use, it should not be included as part of the company's expenses. So dito sa business entity principle, sinaseparate lang natin ang expenses or ang income ni business sa expenses at saka income ni owner. So that we will really know magkano ba talaga yung income ni business at saka magkano lang ba talaga yung expenses ni business and vice versa with the owner. So that's the business entity principle. Iba ang recording sa personal ng owner or ng investor at iba rin ang recording ng income saka expense ni business. So that's business entity principle. Next, we have the going concern principle. In the going concern principle, the business or the organization is expected to continue indefinitely. So when preparing financial statements, you should assume that the entity will continue indefinitely. It means the recording should not say na until 2 years lang ito or 5 years lang itong business. So when we are going to record our transactions, we assume that the business will continue indefinitely. So 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, we as much as possible we want to we assume that the business will be going so long, no? And we don't foresee na it will end. That's the going concern principle because of course, like for example, depreciation. We depreciate assets based on their useful value, useful life, or ang kanyang term. So how can we depreciate an asset na 10 years, let's say 10 years, ang kanyang useful life, if we foresee that the business will only operate for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, di ba? So in the going concern principle, we assume or we expect that the business will continue on a long period of time. Okay, so that's going concern principle. Next, we have the time period principle. So sa going concern principle, it talks about the indefinite life of the business. Here sa time period principle naman, financial statements are to be divided into specific time intervals. So 'di ba, we assume that the business will continue indefinitely, but we are making financial statements or financial reports, let's say, usually yearly, or annually, quarterly, or monthly. So that's the time period principle. We are dividing that indefinite period of time into time intervals in order for us to make our financial reports. So for example, Philippine companies are required to report financial statements annually, and the salary expenses from January to December 2015 should only be reported in 2015. So that's the time period. We are dividing each the indefinite time assumed or presumed by the going concern principle into time period. Hinahati-hati lang natin. So commonly, it is annual or yearly. And then there are businesses that are preparing monthly financial report, income statement, how much income did or loss the company incurs or earns within a month, a quarter, semi-annual, it means 6 months or annually, di ba? So that's time period principle. Next, we have the monetary unit principle. Amounts are stated into a single monetary unit. So basically, when we say monetary unit principle, we are only using one monetary unit. So Philippine peso, 'di ba? So para hindi siya mahirap intindihin. Like for example, what if sa record ninyo may record kayo na Philippine peso, may record kayo na US dollars, may record kayo ng Japanese yen, may record kayo ng euro, 'di ba? So mas mahirap siyang intindihin yung financial statement. So there should be one monetary unit. So whether we transact uh, in uh, in a foreign currency, then we need to convert that into Philippine peso to make it easier to understand and to make it constant ang ating recording na Philippine peso lang talaga. So for example, mayroon kayong business transaction worth 10,000 US dollars. So yung 10,000 US dollars, i-convert natin into Philippine peso and yun yung i-record natin. Okay, so that's monetary unit principle. Only one currency. Okay, so for example, Jollibee should report financial statements in pesos even if they have a store in the United States. So i-convert lang naman yun siya. So, for example, yung sabi ko nga, 10,000 US dollars, i-convert lang siya into Philippine peso. And yung Philippine peso, yun yung i-record natin. Okay? Another example, McDonald's should report financial statements in dollars even if they have a branch here in the Philippines. Because I believe that the main office of McDonald's is located in the United States of America or USA. And of course, their monetary unit is US dollars. So kahit na may branch sila dito sa Philippines, their recording will be in US dollars. Okay? Next is the objectivity principle. Financial statements must be presented with supporting evidence. Kaya nga dyan pumapasok yung mga vouchers, receipts, acknowledgement receipts, vouchers, disbursement, di ba? So, invoices, di ba? So, lahat dyan, everything that is recorded should have if a supporting document. Okay? So for example, when the customer paid Jollibee for their order, Jollibee should have a copy of the receipt to represent as evidence na nagbayad si customer. And then when a company incurred a transportation expense, a voucher should be prepared as evidence. So parang proof of the transaction lang naman siya, yung objectivity principle. So that there will be no personal biases, di ba, na nag-record lang siya kahit na wala naman talagang expenses or wala naman talagang income. So when we say objectivity principle, it means there is a supporting document, there is a supporting proof of that transaction. Para if ever you will be questioned saan to galing na expense or saan to napunta, sino bang nag-receive ng expense or kailan to talaga na-earn yung income na ito, then we can show our proof of that transaction. Okay, so that's objectivity principle. Next is cost principle. Accounts should be recorded initially at cost. So, for example, when Jollibee buys a cash register, it should record the cash register at its price when they bought it. Diba? For example, ano lang siya, bumili siya ng cash register. Diba? Yung ano lang yung sa pera. So, binili nila at 1,000 pesos. Pero, 2 years ago, and then this year, ang value na ng cash register is, kung bibili ka ng cash register ngayon is nasa 1.5. So basically, the recording should be based on the initial cost doon sa transaction na yun. Kung magkano yung binayad for the certain transaction, yun yung i-record natin as cost. Okay? Next, when a company purchases a laptop, it should be recorded at the price it was purchased. Kung magkano lang talaga yung binayad or incur na cost at that period or that transaction, yun yung i-record natin. That is the cost principle. Next is the accrual accounting principle. The opposite is the cash basis accounting. So when we say accrual accounting principle, revenue or income should be recognized when earned, regardless of collection, and expenses should be recognized when incurred, regardless of payment. So for example, may bumili sa iyo utang, may umutang ng binibenta mo. And then babayaran niya 2 months after. Yung kita ng transaction or yung sale ng pagbenta is recorded ngayon. Hindi siya kung kailan magbabayad. Okay? So, similarly, kapag expense naman, for example, kuryente for October, babayaran siya November usually, di ba ganun yun? Pero, ang recording niyan is doon sa October. Okay? So, kung kailan siya na-earn yung income at kailan na-incur yung expenses, doon natin i-record. Yung cash accounting naman is kung kailan natin na-receive ang bayad at kailan tayo nagbayad. Diba? For example, doon sa example, nabenta ngayon yung goods, babayaran 2 months after. After 2 months pa natin i-record yung sale. Yun yung cash basis. At saka yung expense naman, ngayon na buwan na bill ng kuryente, babayaran next month natin siya i-record. So that's the opposite. Okay? Cash basis is the opposite of accrual basis, di ba? So cash basis is not generally accepted principle as of today. So for example, when a barber finishes performing his services, he should record it as revenue. When the barbershop receives an electricity bill, it should record it as an expense even if it is not yet paid. Okay? So ito, matching principle. Cost should be matched with the revenue generated. So for example, when you provide tutorial services to a customer and there is a transportation cost incurred related to the tutorial services, it should be recorded as an expense for that period. So ano lang siya, i-match lang natin yung cost sa revenue na generate. Okay? Disclosure principle, all relevant material information should be reported. Kaya nga meron tayong tinatawag na notes to financial statement or footnotes, di ba? Kasi doon natin i-disclose lahat ng relevant information needed for that, let's say, financial statement, yung relevant information should be disclosed sa notes ng financial statement or sa footnote, di ba? So, example, the company should report all relevant information needed for in that financial statement. Okay? And then conservatism, also known as prudence. In case of doubt, assets and income should not be overstated, while liabilities and expenses should not be understated. What does this mean? Parang conservative lang siya, di ba? So, we will not overstate income and we will not understate expenses. Yung over-conservatism nga is we will understate income and we will overstate expenses. Because kung over-conservatism, that is kumbaga parang the worst case scenario. Overstated yung expenses, understated yung income. So that's the worst case scenario. So kung hindi man yun siya masunod, then everything aside from that will be better than the over-conservatism. Okay? So example, in case of doubt, expenses should be recorded at a higher amount and revenue should be recorded at a lower amount. Okay? And lastly, materiality principle. In case of assets that are immaterial to make a difference in the financial statements, the company should instead record it as an expense. So materiality is sometimes subjective, di ba? For big businesses or for a big multinational or international global corporation, ang kotse is sometimes immaterial na siya, 'di ba? Pero for a small business, a service vehicle is very material. So that is why also the materiality principle is very subjective because it depends now on the perspective or on the judgment of the business, okay? Or the study of the business. So here in the example, a school purchased an eraser with an estimated useful life of 3 years. Since an eraser is immaterial relative to assets, it should be recorded as an expense. So school, bumili siya ng eraser. The eraser should basically on the concept, on the very essence of the transaction is actually an asset. However, eraser is very immaterial compared to the different assets of the school. That is why it is already considered as an expense na lang for an easier accounting transaction or accounting record. So instead na i-consider siya as an asset, kinonsider natin siya as an expense na lang. Okay? So those are the basic accounting concepts and principles. If you actually understood those accounting concepts and principles, madali na lang siya ang ibang concept or ang accounting because naintindihan mo na yung basics accounting concepts and principles. Okay? So thank you for watching this video. To support my educational contents, please do follow or subscribe to my channel and share this video to your friends kapag example nahihirapan kayo with regards to your accounting or you want to pursue accounting course, then you can please share this video. Okay? So thank you and goodbye.